Heyo,
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
what's happening? You ready for today, Norman?
Oh yeah, I'm ready for today. Kidding? Talking finance. Actually, it's finance mixed with technology, so that actually is something I would like to talk about.
Welcome, welcome. We're going to talk about emerging IT trends and budget strategies for success in 2025 and beyond. Welcome. We're with RCS Professional Services. Norman and I work together side by side, and we are an IT managed service provider located in New York and Atlanta, Georgia, servicing clients around the country. And we're here to talk to you today about
And
strategy,
that's our team
budget.
behind me.
That's at the mud run, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So yeah, we're here to talk about, bring some ideas to the table, some things that you could think about, and some professionals that are with us. Norman, could you go over housekeeping?
Yeah, okay. So, listen, everybody out there, you too could come on this show. And so, at some point in the comments, you'll see that Alex, who's running things in the background, she's going to drop a link in there. And if you click on that link, you can actually come on the show. And so, there's going to be time for you guys to jump in and ask questions. We like to run this as an interactive format. So, yeah, feel free to come on the show or post your questions in the comments section. If you do click the link to come on, then just what is it? Turn off the LinkedIn side because it'll echo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's what we said, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so like Norman said, Alex is gonna put a little link in the chat, or however you're viewing it. If you click that, it'll open up in the browser and connect you to us, and she'll let you in. You could ask any questions. You could also comment and ask questions, which we could reply to. So if we could keep it engaged, keep you guys engaged, great. We would love to hear questions and answer them. But we have some panelists with us today, right? So
Yes.
Alex.
Wait. So hang on. Oh, panelists. Yes. Here we go with the
Hi,
panelists.
guys.
Hey, Cynthia.
Hey. Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thanks
me
for coming
on.
on.
I'm
Of course.
excited.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Wait, time out. A little more intro on this webinar. Listen, if you guys out there haven't thought budgeting, especially as far as IT goes, you really need to get going on this, because if you are behind on this, then every bit of IT expense is going to come at you by surprise. So definitely get ahead of that, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So, Cynthia, go talk to us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Cynthia Smith, founder of ShineV, where I provide financial consulting and CFO services to both small and mid-sized businesses. I specialize in strategic financial planning, financial modeling, and financial analysis. So basically helping clients understand their financial performance. I'm helping them dive into the results and then helping them plan for the future with detailed financial projections. And technology is certainly an aspect that business owners should be planning for specifically and making sure that their budgets are ready for any experiences that come up. Before I started ShineV, I pretty much started my career out at Fortune 500 companies across operations, financial strategy, corporate strategy, finance analytics, and financial planning and analysis, or FP&A. I've always wanted to start my own business, so I ended up through between operations and finance, going back to get my MBA. So I earned an MBA from Chicago Booth, and
Nice.
then went into finance. Started working in corporate for a while until I decided, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do my own business. I took a pit stop at a mid-sized startup first just to see what it would be like to service the types of clients that I would be working with. And I can tell you, I started my company back in fall of 2003, and I really, really enjoy working with the small, mid-sized business market because you just get so much more satisfaction out of working with those types of clients and helping them achieve their business objectives. Because as we talk about these technology trends that are out there that business owners are trying to keep up with, like having a good solid financial plan is something that I enjoy helping people with.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely want to hear more about that. And we're going to get into the conversation. Let's bring on Daniel, who is one of our
Greetings.
Hey, Daniel, how you
Daniel.
doing? Tell us
Good,
a little
you?
bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name's Daniel Beer. I'm with a company called Freeman Clark. We do fractional technology leadership, and if you don't know what that is, then we'll explain it in a little bit. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm not from around these parts. I'm actually from even further south than Atlanta, from the deep south, Sydney, Australia. So I've been in the US now since 2012. I actually started my own IT consulting business when I was 20. In 2012, give or take a decade or two. And I've always been passionate about technology and the impact that it has on businesses. I'm also a classical singer by training, so my education is actually opera my experience is opera and choir, but I've always had these two parallel sides. So, fun fact, yeah, that's right. Probably not. Anyway, so basically my passion has always been in helping businesses grow, and technology is a key lever for that. Helping businesses grow, be more efficient. My primary driver is that I hate waste, and my primary commitment in the world is that together we all win. And I think that that is sort of encapsulates what we do. It's we work with our customers to sort of understand what are their objectives and their goals, and then how can we win together, and using technology to do that.
All right, I'm excited to have this conversation. Let's add Evan, and then let's look to get started. Hey, Evan.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
how
Evan.
are you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm Evan Paris. I am a co-founder of Finance Consulting. I'm going to apologize for my voice. It decided not to work with me this morning, but I'm going to power through it. We started Finance Consulting about 5 years ago, and it's me and my co-founder. We are primarily tax and accounting for small and medium-sized businesses, and I myself are focused on the accounting side and really am a fractional CFO. So I do come to it from an accounting perspective. I've been about 20 years in the business. And so what we usually focus on first is the operational side of accounting, make sure the numbers are clean before we take it to the budgeting, the forecasting, and helping a business figure out what's working, what's not, and tweak what they're doing. So I just love helping businesses really just see what's happening through the numbers. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, awesome. Looks like we lost Daniel for a minute.
He's back.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so let's get to it. We have some great professionals here, and we're like I said, an IT managed service provider, and we're constantly trying to improve our clients, lives, work lives, by basically making their days easier, right? More efficiency. There's a lot of things happening in the marketplace. AI nonstop. You can't go a day without reading something about AI and what's going on. It's in the headlines. Cybersecurity, another big topic. All sorts of things happening with data and analytics and anything and everything, right? ERP upgrades. There's so much things you can look to improve your business in. But Norman, maybe we could just discuss, like, I know you do for our clients the budgeting process and help them, achieve budget. I know it's already February, but it's never too late to start, at least to start getting it in for the back half of the year or 2026, whatever it may be, because I've learned that unless these conversations are not happening early and often, then it's hard to see initiatives happen. So tell us about the budgeting process. What are you doing for our clients?
So you've hit upon a great thing, which is, which do I take care of first, right? Am I looking at emerging trends and trying to work technology for that, or am I dealing with the technology I already have? And I'd love to hear from you guys out there what you think as far as which direction one needs to be going in. It's February. We want to do some budgeting. Where do we jump in? Daniel, you got anything for us on that?
Yep. Sorry, trying to unmute myself. Absolutely. So, I mean, I guess the first place to start for me, at least, is why? What exactly do we want to budget for? Why do we want to do anything? So first of all, what's the business objective? What do we want to achieve by the end of the year? And then let's just look at what we have laid out in front of us. Where are we at, and what are the things that are going to give us the greatest progress towards that? So that for me is the first place to start.
And
Okay.
Go ahead, Norman.
Sorry, Jeff. What?
No, I was going to say, how do you go? What process do you take to determine what those end initiatives look like? I know we can figure out how much it costs, what it is we're going to get, but like, do you start with an assessment? How do you start the process?
For us, yeah, absolutely. So a business, I mean, fundamentally, a business should have a sense of, a lot of businesses just sort of carry on based on what they're, dealing with what's in front of them. But really a strategic business, and we work with businesses at the strategic level. So a strategic business is thinking, okay, where am I now? Where do I want to be in 3, 12, 24, and so forth months? So that's the first set of questions, is what's your long-term objective? And then let's just break it down to the next 3 and say, well, what do we need to do to get there? And often, frankly, when we're talking about budgeting, I think before you need to get a sense of where are you at right now. And that's the first thing that we do with our clients, is look at everything that they've got. What are they currently doing? We've got a long checklist that, depending on their size and complexity, we don't go through all the questions, but they can work through, and we'll actually help them say, well, where are we at? What are you doing in the key areas where MSPs work? What about all these other areas where MSPs don't often look? They don't necessarily have visibility into elements of your business. So it's evaluating all of that sort of stuff. And then oftentimes we find that businesses, there are things that they don't even realize that aren't happening or they're not dealing with. So, and then that's where we sort of, where we can start.
Gotcha. I already know that Evan's going to want to jump in here, because you discussed seeing where you are technologically. And I know Evan's going to want to jump in here and say, see where you are financially, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, we typically start the budgeting process with the top line. I mean, without the top line, you kind of can't figure out what are you going to be able to do. And from that perspective, you also figure out, all right, we've got this top line. What does the evolution of the company look like? What do we need to invest in? And how do we drive that? And so we work that against the business model and really what they need to do. Does that mean that they need to go through some sort of financing or fundraising or, a variety of other options? Or are they going to be able to finance these initiatives through current cash flow? But for me, it all starts with the top line. How much revenue are you bringing in? How much can you expect? Let's work it off the model that way. But it's the strategy side is the fun part, and that's always fun being that person to really probe and ask those questions and kind of get it out of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would say, both Daniel and Evan touched on this whole thought of strategy. And as finance professionals, like we wouldn't be doing the business justice if we're not asking them about, hey, what's your strategy, right? So is the business looking to grow from here? Is the business looking to go into new products and services? Are you looking to get into new markets? Like we have to look at those things, because you can't just look back and say, okay, this is what I did last year, so this is what I'm going to be doing next year, or this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of this year. You got to be looking at what your actual customer base looks like, what's happening in your market, what are your competitors doing, and that's the kind of thing that you're then looking forward to. Okay, what's going to change in terms of my operations that's going to change my revenues? And if I'm changing my revenues, if I'm growing my revenues, what's going to change on the cost side in order for me to support those things, right? So we're actually talking through at the same time, what's your strategy, and then, okay, how do we map your finances to that, right? Like, how do we make sure that you're prepared as you get down the line when you thought you were going to make this much, okay, but you forgot about the expense line there.
Something actually just came up for me when you asked, when you jumped in, Norman, and asked Evan about that. I realized that you're absolutely right. I don't go straight to money. I go to what is the business objective and how are we going to get there with technology. And so the thing that I'm actually really struck by is, as you start to actually consider your budget, you need to think about who do you have on your team, because every person's got the area where they're interested in, and you need to actually ask yourself, do I have the people on my team, and do I have access to the people that are best going to help me shape my business? And before you make any investment, that's actually the first thing you want to ask, because then if the answer is no, or I'm not sure, you want to answer that question before you start spending any money.
Jeff, I'm sure you have a comment on this one.
Yeah, it's actually, as we've gotten more distant,
What you call a setup there, Jeff?
We're in business 25 years, and obviously we're still learning and growing. But one of the things we've gotten good at over the last few years is understanding and being more in tune with our financials, making projections for the upcoming quarters and years. And I know that my SG&A, my selling general administrative, can't be more than whatever it is, 22%. And that's pretty much the guardrail, right? That's where I can't spend more than that based on my top line sales. So if we're going to do 5, 6, 7 million, whatever it is, 22% of that, fine. And then so there's some technology in there, and that's where we could spend money. We know what our ongoing and recurring expenses are, and we know where we can invest. I mean, we're constantly investing in new systems that are making our lives better and our client lives better. And we're going to touch on some of those things, right, Norman? So I don't know where you want to go with it because you're taking the lead, but for sure, back to what Evan was saying. I mean, understanding your numbers and knowing your percentages, and that's basically your affordability calculator, right, Evan?
Yeah, no, certainly. I love the fact that you related it back to percent of revenue, and that's certainly how we look at it. So, it's really everything. I mean, it's fun, because how do you take all of these different things into account? And it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. Where do I want to go with the business? What are some initiatives I want to implement, whether it's technology or process or anything else? How do I make the business more profitable? How do I scale the business? I mean, these are all things that you have to take into account in when planning the path of the business. From a numbers, I feel like I've got one of the simplest jobs in the respect that it all comes down to the numbers and what they actually are. It's a lot less, fluid than, let's say, marketing or strategy or, how are we implementing new processes? It's one of our focuses, but those don't always come down to numbers. Those come down to, all right, let's talk about how to do this. It's a little bit more creative, but
right.
The percent of revenue is a constant monitoring point.
Yeah,
for us.
It's even got to go down to percent of margin to do it right. But
sure.
Norman, you touched on something in the beginning, which I guess I've learned is actually called technical debt, right? Where if you don't keep things modernized and staying on top of it, touch on it from our client's perspective, like what is technical debt and how do you avoid it? And I'm sure many clients have been in that, not necessarily clients or prospects have been in that situation, and we really try and make sure that it doesn't happen. Can you touch on that, what it is?
Yeah, oh my God. So getting behind on technical debt, it's a killer. Things like I've got a whole bunch of old computers and I haven't upgraded any computers in a long time. Now I've got suddenly I've got this big bill weighing on me where I've got to upgrade 10, 20 computers all in one shot because I wasn't paying attention the whole time and all those computers got old. I had my business relies on the Wi-Fi, and our Wi-Fi has just gotten older and older and older. And instead of staying with it and being like, okay, we need to upgrade when the time is right, we're now behind. And suddenly I've got old computers, I've got Wi-Fi that needs to be changed. I've got, not only do I have to put money towards that, but I have to put manpower resources towards that. So this whole idea of technical debt, don't let it get there.
And
you really got to
right?
stay on top of it.
Especially security now with all these cyber insurance questionnaires, and a lot of clients that aren't proactive on modernizing and keeping things up to date. They can't check a lot of those boxes and they can't comply with the carriers and stuff like that. So it could really get out of hand quickly.
Wait, so now I have a slight jump ahead question, which is, let's say it's halfway through the year, right? And some technology or other comes at you sideways. AI came out of nowhere, right? And suddenly we now want to do that. how do you make that happen in the larger thing of your budget that you had already worked out for the whole year?
Anyone have anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I would say is so the question is the first. How do you make that happen in front of in terms of the budget? Well, I would say first of all, should you make that happen in front of the budget? Because technical debt actually comes from making short-term decisions that are reactionary, and oftentimes, as business owners, we want things done as quickly as possible, and depending on what's right in front of us. But that's where having a really strong strategy and being rigorous about where you want to go. And then I'm sure Evan will back me up on this, and Cynthia as well. Then it really just comes down to numbers. I mean, I think ultimately, even when there's problem solving, to your point, Evan, before, the things can be fluid, but ultimately it does just all come down to numbers. And it's very easy to simplify even the fluidity of just by saying, well, okay, what is the actual upside of doing that investment, and what's it really going to cost? Because the other thing that what you were saying, Norman, is as people get into technical debt and they actually sort of things slow down, there are some real issues that come on the other side of technical debt, such as we can't actually even upgrade our computers now, or we can't continue to use our accounting software because we just got an automatic patch and everything stops working and we're at a standstill. Those things happen. So then obviously that impacts client engagement, employee engagement, and the costs of stuff that you're not even aware of. So yeah, it's a much broader issue than just are we up to date from a cybersecurity or an operational standard.
Yeah,
okay, so let's keep on this topic of technical debt for a second.
Mm-hmm.
How can organizations identify signs of it early? Sounds like you need to get on top of it. As I said, how do you know it's there? How do you know it's happening? How do you know it's coming?
I'm going to let my financial colleagues jump in. I don't want to be talking all the time.
Well, it's more the IT guys, right?
I think, the way I think of it is, we keep going back to this thought of strategy. My suggestion for folks to do is really to have a high level strategy roadmap across all the areas of your company, including technology. So if you already have your technology roadmap and you kind of know, here's where I am right now, and here's where I want to be over the next, let's call it 3 to 5 years, you're able to then build into your budget where you need to be putting money towards technology, where you need to be putting in an upgrade. And if you start out where you're in a position to start small, so where the functions that you actually need, a lot of technology packages have different levels. So you can start out with the basic package, and then as you need more features, you can start adding on to that. So let's say if you've done that, then you're in a position to kind of gradually add on when you need additional technology. If you haven't done that, then now's the time to start. But I would say the next step is, of course, you always have to make that sort of that decision factor. You have to look at, is it worth it to do now? Do I have to do it now, or can I wait down the line to do it? Because it's not easy to change budgeting especially if you're a multi-department organization. You can't just snatch budgeting from someplace else. It has to be a strategic decision if you're able to get budget from somewhere else. So realistically, if the companies have a healthy cash flow and you have a sort of contingency plan put in place, then you may very well have a little bit of extra cushion for projects that come up that were unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, there's that also, but Norman touched on a good one, like AI, right? It's if it's not already game changing, it's going to be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be looked at as a flat out expense where you're not capturing something in return, right? I mean, they're saying that, let's say Microsoft Copilot, which we sell a lot of Microsoft stuff, lots of our clients use Microsoft. I just went to a conference in the Javits Center and they were claiming that, it's basically saving each employee that's adopted it and using it 2 hours per week. By that, by however many employees you have, that's not necessarily going to be that could be an efficiency booster. It could, delay your next hire. You're increasing the capacity of your workforce, getting more time in their day. So there's other ways to look at it. I mean, would you agree on that, Norman?
Yeah. So yes, and that thing that Cynthia said about this concept of kind of inching the technology into the organization. You don't need to do the whole thing all in one shot. Get things in there and then start building on that. You want to get started with
Yeah.
AI? Great. You don't have to put the whole business thing inside AI and it's doing all kinds. No, just get going with it.
Yeah.
And then you can add to it as you're moving along, as you have the resources as far as people to actually implement it, and the finance and the time to do it. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get slow. You don't have to dive in. You can slow play this.
Well, we're pretty far in. I don't want to like take up too much of everyone's time, but I would like to talk on some of the trends. Like, what are you seeing, Norman? And maybe we could pass it around. Um, Obviously, we just mentioned AI, but where are you seeing investments going, especially the trending ones?
Oh yeah, it's in those two places. It's in cybersecurity and AI. Unfortunately, cybersecurity has been going on for years, but it's still this cat and mouse game, and it's still something that really needs to be done. As far as A, it needs to be done, and B, my God, you rack up technical debt on that one like instant. Pay attention to it. At some point, you're going to get hacked, and then you've got a whole expense. So, cybersecurity and AI, cybersecurity as far as like protecting yourself, and AI as far as improving yourself. I'd say those two are big ones.
I'm also noticing another one is like as all these software as a service bills that we pay, companies could have anywhere between 10 and dozens of apps that they pay for. There's a lot happening in the way of, aggregating the data, being able to get into analytics. Microsoft's doing a lot with Power BI. There's Tableau. There's all sorts of things like getting into that data warehousing to provide, insights and visibility into things going on in your organization, financially, anything and everything. And I see that as a big one. Also, making sure a lot of companies have antiquated, we've spoken about ERP systems, another line of business applications, getting the right software to help you run your business is a huge efficiency booster, and saves your company lots of time, lots of manpower. So I think that's other things. Are you guys seeing that on the financial side? What are you seeing companies investing in?
Yeah, certainly. I'd have to say that the most of the initiatives that I hear from my clients are in some way of trying to figure out how they can use AI, and also, on the flip side, which really it's not really the flip side. In along that vein is really trying to increase their margin, right? So however that happens, it's typically to increase the revenue and lower their cost per client or cost per hour or whatever it may be, right? Whatever widget they are manufacturing or producing. So that's where I see a lot of the push. One is some sort of automated attendant. Another is some sort of chatbot or something to that effect, and starting to push into that. I will say, I don't mean to go back to technical debt, but you guys were talking about the ERPs. If you've got an older ERP, you're definitely spending much more time than you otherwise should or need to. And the cloud-based newer ERPs are definitely pushing the envelope of honestly, I don't know that they've completely figured out how to use AI within those ERPs, but they're trying. They're
will.
Things, and it's pretty cool as to what a lot of those are doing. So. Yeah.
Cynthia,
So
what do you see?
how do you guys prioritize? Okay, so you've got all these great projects you want to do. How do you guys prioritize which ones should get done? Is it a cost benefit analysis? Is it an efficiency thing?
Well, if you're thinking of hiring an additional person or making some sort of investment anyway because you're growing, or you're looking at trying to increase your margin because you're inefficient in a certain area, then that's usually when you say, okay, should I spend the dollars over here or over there? And that's when you do the cost benefit analysis, right? Should I spend money on insourcing somebody, hiring somebody full time or part time internally as an employee, or should I look for a service that can provide this to me? and be a little bit, maybe on a per hour basis, it's a little bit more because I only need 20 hours of work. But you know what? Overall cost is only 80% of what I would spend if I hired somebody, right? So where is this, where do I have savings? How can I implement this change strategically when I know I need to make the investment or the change anyway?
Okay, so what are some common budgeting mistakes that SMBs make, and how can they avoid them?
Making unrealistic assumptions. So, hey, we're going to grow 50% this year. Well, a lot of companies do grow 50% year over year. Most don't, right? So, like, is that realistic? Banking too much on that, and also not keeping an eye on the drivers of costs as they grow. Watching that margin, making sure it's not squeezed. Being realistic in what sort of costs you need to budget for as you grow. But most often it's being a little too optimistic, which is great. I love setting goals. I love, it's I used to work with a sales VP that said, when I'm handed my goals of $100 million a year of sales, I then turn to my all of my salespeople and tell them allot out the quotas to 150 million, right? So that I'm hitting my goals. And that's kind of how I like the budget is be realistic in what you can accomplish. If you blow it out of the water, awesome. Push to sell for that additional, that stretch goal, but be realistic when you're putting your budget together and slowly get there. Don't inch your costs up too quickly as you do grow.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the only thing that I would add is companies that are oftentimes not thinking strategically enough about where their next steps are. So if you're just kind of, well, I've always kind of done this, and you're not thinking about the fact that some line items are going to change, or maybe they're relying too much on one large customer, and they didn't realize that customer, you can't necessarily predict these things, but that one customer doesn't renew, and then you're in a crunch because your revenue, that revenue stream is gone. So I would say considering risks, being realistic, but also considering risks, and again looking out forward and just trying to keep a broader picture of where you're going.
Nice. Cynthia, are you noticing any trends like tech wise that your clients are budgeting for / investing in and implementing?
I think it might have been Norman who mentioned this earlier, but a lot of companies, especially in a small and mid-sized business market, are still sort of at the basics. So they're still trying to get up and running with the basic level of, either on the accounting side or on the technology side, the things that they need to have implemented. So, one of the technologies that I've seen people kind of try to add on. So let's say you baseline have an accounting function that does certain things that you just make sure that you just need, right? Like they're just baseline things that you need. But as you have more, maybe more departments or more different types of vendors, then you need some additional systems to help you manage that. So one technology that I've heard a lot of people or more than one business looking really into is a system called RAMP, which is expense management. And this kind of fits right in with your accounting software. So it fits in with QuickBooks and other related softwares, but that helps you with managing who's doing what. So you can do some approvals on the expense side, but essentially it gives you a little bit more control over an aspect that a lot of companies don't have a lot of control over. Even if the company is at, let's say, 100 million in revenue, that there's always an aspect of, okay, who bought this, who said they were, who approved this, right? Having some sort of system where you're tracking those expenses has been super helpful.
For sure. Back to like software as a service. I know during the pandemic, we invested in Bill.com, and I would never not have that again. And I know that does expenses too. Just the fact that we don't have to print checks is like amazing. But yeah, there's so many, again, back to efficiency boosting, right? That expense software, chasing down, I don't know, spreadsheets or however companies do it that don't have a system. I know we have expense system that we, the techs are out there, they need to pick up a part for a client, whatever, they just go, they expense it, they get paid. They don't have to think about it. It's like just so much more efficient. There's so many aspects in the business where you can improve your efficiency, and then at the same time, like Norman and then Daniel was saying, risk reduction, right? It's obviously very important to not expose yourself, and you could be very exposed with technology when it's not done the right way, I would say. A lot of guardrails are in place, like the insurance cybersecurity questionnaire. If at least you're abiding by all those things, you're probably pretty okay. Of course, there's other areas where you need to comply with various regulations depending on the industry you're on, and that could take it to another level. But for sure, efficiency boosting and making your workers' lives, easier by having them spend less time on manual work and stuff like that, for sure, and risk reduction. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things, Norman, right? I mean, and Daniel, between cybersecurity in itself is an encyclopedia. That's just one practice area, right?
Yeah, so I hear you mentioning some of the financial advantages businesses can gain by upgrading technology. What are some common financial challenges businesses face when implementing new technologies, and what strategies can they use to address these hurdles? Right, so everybody's like all excited, we're going to do things, and you start signing up for things and trying to get these things going in the business. What are some of these financial challenges you're going to see as you're implementing these new technologies?
So I'd actually just jump in because there's a few points that sort of keep bubbling up, and they've got different faces each time. But I think specifically what you just asked is one of the biggest things, and I think it's often neglected, is implementation is not the software is installed. Implementation is your people are using the software that's been installed, because that is the biggest fail with most ERP implementations. And I've heard statistics anywhere from 30 to 70% of ERP implementations fail. And that is nearly always because of a lack of preparation, a lack of understanding, and a lack of planning. So you've got to do all three and make sure that everyone in your organization is actually on board with the process and involved in the process to the degree that they need to be, so that you're not left after 2 years with a half implemented ERP and people working in spreadsheets.
Yeah, I would also add to that. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Prioritizing. It's really impossible to do too many of these things at once. And sometimes we go to conferences and trade shows and we like have all these things and they sound like they're going to make all our problems go away. And we used to come back and like sign up for this and sign up for that, and then nothing gets done, right? So it's very important to like just do one thing or two things, whatever your bandwidth allows, however your MSP, your department, your internal, whatever it is. But the organization just can't, even the people that you're serving, they can't take up. They have sales to make, calls to do. These things are like major distractions. So I would say keep it to a minimum and do a little bit at a time. I don't know what your guys' experience is.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think implementation was the number one aspect of it. And something that kind of stems off of that is overestimating the immediate impact of the new technology. Because of course, if you don't get the implementation phase right, you're not going to be getting that benefit. Jeff talking about users, the end user actually making workarounds because they don't fully understand the system or they can't access the system appropriately. And then the one thing I would say that oftentimes gets overlooked is integration or compatibility with your other systems. So how easy is that going to be? And then whether or not you need some sort of expertise in the background. And then if you are hiring an external consultant, what is that from an IT perspective? I've definitely seen that part where you don't have the external knowledge to get that done. So you're trying to figure out with your existing employees. That means that the learning curve is going to be a lot steeper. And it's, again, implementation is going to be longer, and the value that you thought you were going to get out of it is going to take longer to get to.
Cool. I mean, this is great stuff. Another thing that we see trend-wise is a lot of investments are being made in video conference solutions, in conference rooms. Obviously meetings became a big thing, virtual meetings a few years ago. A lot of clients are investing in those conference rooms where they could have effective meetings. A lot of way around collaboration, and smart boards are a big thing now with our clients, and great audio and video products in the boardrooms and conference rooms. Norman, are you noticing anything? So we got AI, we talked about cybersecurity, applications, right? Huge SaaS. You got CRM, you got ERP, you got accounting. List goes on and on, right? We mentioned the stuff about meeting software, meeting hardware, video conference gear. Anything else that you're noticing trend-wise?
Well, you know what? You're naming a whole bunch of trends, and now I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, if you're going to start implementing all these trends, how do you strike a balance between innovation and risk management when adopting all these new technologies? Who wants to jump in on that?
I will very happily jump in on that. The risk management, obviously, something we talked about. We've been talking about AI, and people often focus on the upside of using AI, but they're not actually thinking about what AI is. And all of the publicly accessible models, unless you have a specific setting or you've requested it, whatever you put in there is going out into a public model. So that's obviously a major issue, and someone understanding that, like, how is technology being used and what are people doing? Because I think there are a lot of things, a lot of these businesses, it might seem like a really great deal, but the reason for the deal is that what they're selling, from their perspective, the value of their product is actually not what the product can do. It's actually what do they get out of your data.
Right.
So that's something you really want to be considering.
Yeah, be careful what you feed into the free ChatGPT. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So this has been great. I like the balance between developing, budgets. It's really important to start having these conversations. You don't want to just make an investment on a whim and not be strategic, like everyone here is saying. You want to get these things into a plan. When you're going to do it. We're going to push this out to Q4, Q1, whatever it is. But actually having a plan, stopping and thinking, knowing what it's going to cost, knowing what the impact's going to be, knowing what the benefits are going to be, knowing what the return is going to be, and trying to really make sure that all this time and effort is worthwhile, and money, right? So it's really important to have these conversations and not just go buy stuff, right?
Yeah. Yes. So, to recap, we had the take a look at where you are financially, right? That's see where you are with the money and all that, and what money's coming in, what money's going out. Make sure you know where you are, and then where you are with your technology. Is there a bunch of technical debt that's out there? Is there new things you want to do? What are all these plans? And then also, people. Do you have the manpower to pull this off? So it's in summation, right? You need to know where you are as far as those three things for sure, and then do a whole bunch of top-down planning, which is, okay, now I know where I am. Where do I want to go? What are my goals as a company? This is what I heard all of you guys say, so jump in if I'm off on this. Planning early, that was a big one that you guys mentioned a bunch, which is don't leave it to the last minute. If you make sure you do your top-down planning and do it early, so you have the plan and you're ready to go. And then I think Cynthia touched on this, the idea of what's the benefit and what's the impact of that technology going to be, and then if things go however they go, what then? If it goes well, what then? If it doesn't go well, what then? That's what I feel like I've heard a bunch. What else did I miss?
The only thing I would add that wasn't clearly stated out is another piece that we really do in finance is scenario analysis. So as you're planning out, you really should be thinking about the best, medium, and worst case, right? So that you're not surprised, that you've really thought about what is the spectrum of known risks that I can think of. What are the these very succinct scenarios that could potentially take place, and that way you won't be too caught off guard. You've got your high case, you've got your low case, and you're probably going to fall somewhere in between there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The other thing that I'll say is that it's never too late to put that plan together and put that budget together. We typically try to do it with our clients in Q4 before the year starts, and get that cemented in early in January once you know the results from the previous year. But here we're sitting in February, and if you don't have one together, it's not too late. Like, put one
Right.
together, start measuring against
Yes.
it.
Great.
Great
thought.
It's never too late to plan.
It takes
Yeah,
time.
for sure.
It takes time. I mean, we're already in the middle of the second month of the year, so time flies. So
Yeah, just because you haven't done it is no reason not to do it. Yes,
Right.
get on it. You can still do it, even if it's 9 months through the year. You can still do it.
And
Planning is always a good thing.
It'll change 100 times before the year is out too.
Yeah.
But the important thing is where you're trying to go.
And we
Yeah.
have we have a business coach. They help hold us accountable. Definitely recommend that. And folks like these, we're helping you get the works done. So what were you gonna say, Cynthia?
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
All right.
One thing I would mention is, with all of your technology plans, you should be consulting somebody about the things you may have missed. In other words, there may be a security thing you just missed. You didn't realize that it needed to be done. You didn't realize it was out there. There may be, I don't know, some technological thing that is going to weigh on the thing you want to do that you just didn't quite think of. It's always good to bring in the technical and financial minds to help out with these things.
Awesome.
Before we wrap up here, does anybody have anything that you really wanted to get out there that I didn't touch on because the conversation went whichever way it went?
The one thing I'd probably just like to expand on where Cynthia started with, just to be aware of, and it relates to the just go out and buy stuff. It also relates to the derailing my budget that I've set or I haven't set. And it's actually that it is risk, because it's risk. And what you just said, Norman, is what don't I know that I don't know about my business, and then get people to tell you what that is or help you discover what that is. Because risk, everyone thinks cybersecurity. It's like that's the extent of their risk, and maybe fire insurance or whatever. But the fact is, there's probably a lot of operational risk you're not accounting for, or you think that it'll be fine. We're in the cloud. We don't have a problem with business continuity. You do. If that's your view, then you want to make certain that that's actually accurate.
100%.
So yeah, don't let that blow up and be a problem. You got to have backstops and backstops.
I agree 100%. Well, this was great, guys. Really appreciate your time. We have some events coming up. If anyone's in the Atlanta metro area, we have a happy hour. It's on our website, February 13th, for some in-person networking. We have an event virtually on March 18th on CMMC compliance for those government contractors out there, or anyone that needs to comply with CMMC regulations. You want to learn more about it. There's a lot of changes happening that are being put on businesses that need to deal with that. So exciting stuff. There's more to come. This was great. Norman, do we have anything else we want to share?
No, that was you touched on the events coming up. Great. CMMC is going to be an interesting one. That cybersecurity maturity model certification. There's a lot going on in there. So hope to see you guys in that time.
Cynthia, thank you. Evan, thank you. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, been fun.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.